Pisces, have you noticed that someone's behavior suddenly feels different? Maybe they've become unusually quiet. Maybe they're acting overly kind in a way that doesn't quite match who they normally are. Or maybe they've started avoiding your eyes altogether. What if none of this is random? Many spiritual traditions believe that truth has a strange way of surfacing exactly when you're finally ready to handle it. Not a moment before, not a moment after. Right when your heart has grown strong enough to carry it. And today, Pisces, you may be standing closer to that moment than you realize. By the end of this video, you'll understand the symbolic signs many people associate with hidden truth finally rising to the surface, and why, according to many who study these patterns, this particular window of time may be unlike anything you've felt in a while. Stay with me, because what we're about to explore isn't about fear, it's about freedom. There's a strange kind of ache that comes from sensing something before you can prove it. You feel it in the pit of your stomach. You feel it in the pause before someone answers a simple question. You feel it in the way a room shifts when a certain name comes up. Pisces, you are known for this. Your sign has always been tied to intuition, the quiet whisper beneath the noise, the part of you that knows before you understand why you know. For a while now, some part of you may have sensed that someone close to you wasn't being fully honest. Maybe you pushed the feeling away. Maybe you told yourself you were overthinking. Maybe you convinced yourself that loyalty meant ignoring your own instincts. But here's something many spiritual teachers believe. Intuition doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It simply waits. And it seems that this week, it may finally be done. Waiting betrayal rarely arrives wearing a warning sign. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock loudly. Instead, it often hides behind the most familiar faces, the ones who know exactly how to smile at the right moment, say the right words, and blend so perfectly into your life that you never think to question them. That's what makes betrayal so disorienting. It's not the stranger you fear, it's the person who already has a seat at your table. Some spiritual traditions describe this using the symbol of a mirror. A person who betrays you often reflects back exactly what you want to see, not who they actually are. For a while, the reflection feels real, comfortable, safe, but mirrors eventually crack, and when they do, what's behind them can no longer stay hidden. Many believe this is the emotional territory you may be entering right now, Pisces, not out of punishment, not out of misfortune, but because something in the universe, call it timing, call it energy, call it simple human nature, tends to expose what no longer belongs in your life once you've outgrown the need to be deceived. Here's something most people overlook. Truth usually doesn't appear when you're chasing it. Think about the times you've tried to force clarity, replaying conversations, searching for hidden meanings, waiting for someone to slip up and confirm what you already suspected. It rarely worked, did it? The harder you looked, the more confusing everything became. But then, almost always, truth arrives the moment you stop grasping for it, the moment you finally exhale, the moment you decide, even quietly, that you no longer need someone else's honesty to feel whole. That's often when the walls come down. Some interpret this as a kind of universal rhythm, the idea that clarity flows toward peace, not panic. Your energy, according to many who study these patterns, isn't meant to spend itself hunting for proof. It's meant to rest in truth and let truth find its own way to you. And this week, for you, Pisces, that truth may be closer than ever. Let's talk about the difference between fear and intuition, because so many people confuse the two. Fear is loud. It spirals. It imagines worst-case scenarios and repeats them on a loop until you feel sick. intuition is quiet, steady. It doesn't need drama to be real. It simply sits in your chest like a fact you haven't fully accepted yet. If you've been feeling uneasy about someone lately, not panicked, just unsettled, that steady discomfort may be your intuition, not your imagination. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack for years without realizing how much it was slowing you down. Then one day, someone quietly removes it. At first, you don't understand why walking suddenly feels easier, why your shoulders don't ache the way they used to, why your breathing feels lighter. That's often how hidden truth feels once it finally surfaces. Not devastating, relieving, because deep down, you already knew. You were simply waiting for the world to catch up to what your heart understood long ago. Now let's talk about the signs. Many spiritual observers believe certain patterns tend to appear right before a hidden truth reveals itself, not as guarantees, but as gentle nudges worth paying attention to. The first sign is unexpected silence. Someone who once talked constantly may suddenly go quiet, not because nothing is happening, but because something is happening and they don't yet know how to explain it. Silence, in symbolic terms, often represents a storm gathering strength before it breaks. The second sign is overcorrection. Watch for someone becoming unusually kind, unusually attentive, almost performing warmth rather than simply offering it. Many believe this can be the subconscious behavior of someone trying to balance the scales before the truth comes out on its own. The third sign is coincidence. You hear a name mentioned by someone unrelated. You stumble across an old message you forgot existed. A mutual friend says something offhand that suddenly means everything. Some call this random chance. Others believe coincidence is simply the universe's way of being anonymous. Pay close attention to these moments, Pisces. Many people completely overlook them until much later, wishing they had trusted their instincts sooner. Here's where things shift. Because it's not only about what the other person may reveal, it's about what you discover about yourself in the process. There's a kind of strength that only appears after disappointment, a clarity that only sharpens after confusion. Many spiritual teachings describe this as the season after the storm, the quiet stretch of sky that follows turbulence, where everything suddenly feels washed clean. If someone's true colours are beginning to show, this isn't only their unveiling, it's yours too. You may be discovering how much peace you're capable of holding, even in uncertainty. How much dignity you can carry, even when someone else chooses dishonesty. How much stronger you've become since the last time your trust was tested. That's not a small thing, Pisces. That's transformation. Let's talk about rivers for a moment, because water has always understood your sign better than words ever could. A river doesn't fight the rocks in its path. It doesn't waste energy trying to control what's ahead. It simply moves, patiently, persistently, until eventually the rocks wear down and the water finds its way through. Betrayal, in many ways, works the same way in reverse. The truth doesn't need to fight to be revealed. It simply waits, moving quietly beneath the surface until circumstances finally shift enough for it to break through. You don't have to force this moment, Pisces. You don't have to interrogate, investigate, or demand answers before they're ready to come. Many believe the most powerful thing you can do right now is simply stay steady, like water, patient and unshaken, and let the truth do what truth always eventually does: surface. Now, let's imagine how this might unfold. Someone may reach out unexpectedly after a long silence with a message that feels oddly timed. Maybe it's casual on the surface, but something about it feels different, heavier, as if they're testing the waters before saying what they really mean. An apology may arrive that you weren't expecting, not dramatic, not rehearsed, just quiet, almost hesitant, the kind of apology that comes from someone finally being honest with themselves before they can be honest with you. A secret may slip out, not through confrontation, but through accident. A comment made without thinking, a message sent to the wrong person, a story that doesn't quite add up the way it used to. Or maybe none of this happens through dramatic events at all. Maybe it happens quietly, internally, a sudden knowing that settles in your chest one ordinary afternoon with no explanation needed, just clarity, arriving the way morning light arrives after a long night. Slowly, and then all at once. Whatever form it takes, many believe it's not designed to hurt you. It's designed to finally set you free. There's a particular kind of relief that comes from finally seeing someone clearly, not the relief of revenge, not the satisfaction of being right, something quieter than that, something closer to exhaling after holding your breath for far too long. Many spiritual traditions warn against chasing revenge once truth is revealed, and it's worth understanding why. Revenge keeps you tied to the very person who hurt you. It keeps your energy circling around their choices instead of your own healing. It keeps the door open long after it should have closed. Letting go doesn't mean pretending the betrayal didn't happen. It means refusing to let it define what comes next. Picture a door, Pisces, not slammed shut in anger, simply closed gently, with your hand steady and your head held high. On the other side of that door isn't punishment for them, it's peace for you. Here's something worth sitting with. Genuine relationships rarely require constant proof. If someone has been forcing you to question their honesty over and over again, some part of you may already understand what that means. Real trust doesn't ask you to ignore your intuition. Real connection doesn't require you to silence your own instincts just to keep the peace. As this truth reveals itself, you may start noticing the difference more clearly than ever between people who add light to your life and people who simply borrowed it for a while. This isn't about becoming guarded or cold. It's about becoming clear. Many believe this kind of clarity is one of the greatest gifts that follows betrayal. Not bitterness, not distrust, just a sharper understanding of who truly belongs in your story and who was only ever a chapter meant to end. Let's talk about mountains for a moment. From a distance, a mountain looks unmovable, solid, unshaken by wind or weather. But mountains are shaped over time, slowly, through storms most people never witness. You are being shaped right now, Pisces, not broken, shaped. Every uncomfortable realization, every uneasy feeling you've pushed aside, every quiet suspicion you didn't want to face, all of it has been preparing you for this moment, not to make you harder, to make you clearer, wiser, more rooted in your own worth. Many spiritual teachings suggest that emotional growth rarely happens during comfort. It happens during exactly this kind of moment, when something shifts, when uncertainty rises, and when you're forced to choose between staying in illusion or stepping into truth. You're being invited to step into truth, Pisces. And on the other side of that step, many believe something remarkable is waiting. Freedom. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies, the quiet kind, the kind that shows up in small, almost invisible ways. You sleep a little easier. You stop replaying old conversations in your head. You stop searching for hidden meanings in someone's tone. You start trusting yourself again, not because someone gave you permission to, but because you finally have the clarity you were missing. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean, watching the tide pull away debris that had been sitting on the shore for far too long. It doesn't happen violently, it happens naturally, gently, the way the ocean always clears what no longer belongs. That's what this moment may be doing in your life right now, Pisces. Clearing space, quietly, patiently, completely. Very few people notice this until it's too late. But here it is anyway, because you deserve to hear it now, not later. The version of you who existed before this realization and the version of you who exists after it are not the same person. The one before was hoping, guessing, trying to convince herself or himself that everything was fine, even when something quietly whispered otherwise. The one after knows. And knowing, even when it's uncomfortable, is always more powerful than not knowing at all. Many spiritual traditions believe this is the real gift hidden inside every betrayal, not the pain of discovering someone's true face, but the strength you find in finally trusting your own perception again. You were right to sense what you sensed, Pisces. You were right to feel what you felt. And soon, many believe, the world may finally confirm what your heart already understood. Let's slow down for a moment and talk about something people rarely mention when they discuss betrayal. The waiting. Because before truth reveals itself, there's almost always a stretch of time that feels like standing in fog. You can sense something is different. You can feel the shape of it, even if you can't quite see it clearly yet. And that in-between space, not knowing but suspecting, can feel harder than the truth itself. If you've been living in that fog lately, Pisces, you're not imagining it. Many believe this uncertain stretch isn't empty time. It's preparation. Your mind and heart are quietly gathering strength piece by piece so that whatever surfaces next won't knock you off balance. Think of it like the stillness before a storm rolls in. The air feels heavy. Birds go quiet. Everything seems to be holding its breath. People often mistake that stillness for nothing happening. But anyone who has lived through weather like that knows the truth. Something is always happening, even in the quiet. You are not stuck, Pisces. You are gathering. There's another pattern worth mentioning, one that many people notice only when they look back afterward. Before hidden truths surface, small emotional tests often appear first. Someone might casually mention something they normally wouldn't, watching closely to see how you react. A conversation might circle near a subject, then pull away at the last second, almost like someone dipping a toe into cold water before deciding whether to jump in. These moments can feel confusing in the present. You might walk away from a conversation thinking, "That felt strange, but I can't explain why." Trust that feeling. Many spiritual observers believe these small tests are often unconscious. The other person isn't fully aware they're doing it either. They're simply circling the truth, working up the courage to finally let it out. If you've noticed conversations lately that felt slightly off, slightly rehearsed, or oddly cautious, this may be exactly what's happening. Not manipulation, not calculation, just a human being, quietly wrestling with something they know they eventually have to say. Now, let's talk about something deeper. The emotional weight of almost knowing. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from sensing dishonesty without proof. It's different from grief, different from anger. It's a strange, hovering discomfort, like standing in a room where something feels rearranged, even if you can't say exactly what moved. Many people carry this feeling for weeks, sometimes months, without realizing how much energy it quietly drains. You check your phone a little more. You replay conversations a little longer. You find yourself searching for reassurance in places that never quite satisfy the search. If this sounds familiar, Pisces, understand this, that exhaustion isn't weakness, it's evidence. It's your intuition working overtime, trying to protect you from something your logical mind hasn't fully accepted yet. And here's the encouraging part. That exhausting phase doesn't last forever. Many believe it exists specifically to prepare you for the relief that follows once truth finally arrives. The tighter the fog, often the clearer the sky once it lifts. Let's return to the idea of seasons for a moment, because nothing captures this kind of transformation quite like the changing of one season into another. Winter doesn't announce the exact day it will end. It simply, gradually, begins to loosen its grip. The frost melts a little more each morning. The air softens, almost without anyone noticing, until one day you step outside and realize spring has already arrived. Emotional revelations tend to work the same way. You won't necessarily wake up to some dramatic cinematic unveiling. More often, truth arrives quietly in fragments until suddenly you look back and realize you understand everything you didn't before. Some people expect closure to feel like a lightning bolt. In reality, many describe it as more like a tide slowly going out, revealing the shoreline that was always there, just hidden beneath the water. Whatever way this truth chooses to reach you, Pisces, trust that it's arriving exactly the way it needs to. As this chapter closes, something new begins to take shape. Not immediately, not perfectly, but steadily, the way sunrise slowly replaces the darkest part of night. Not all at once, but gradually, until suddenly the sky looks completely different than it did just hours before. This is often how healing works too. You won't wake up one morning completely transformed, but you'll notice small shifts, a little more peace, a little less doubt, a little more trust in your own judgment. And over time, those small shifts become an entirely new season of your life. Some describe this as an emotional spring following a long winter. The frozen parts of you, the parts that stayed guarded, cautious, unsure, slowly begin to thaw, not because everything is perfect now, but because you finally have room to breathe again. That room, Pisces, is where your next chapter begins. Let's talk about doors for a moment, because they carry more symbolic weight than most people realize. A closed door isn't always a punishment. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes the universe closes a door not to shut you out of happiness, but to shut you away from something that was quietly costing you your peace, piece by piece, without you fully noticing. If this relationship, whether it's a friendship, a partnership, a family connection, or something else entirely, is about to reveal itself for what it truly is, understand that the closing of that particular door isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a chapter where you finally stop questioning your own perception. Many believe that once a hidden truth surfaces, an unexpected kind of energy follows shortly after. Not sadness, motivation, a sudden desire to focus on yourself again, your goals, your peace, the parts of your life you may have been neglecting while quietly managing someone else's dishonesty. Pay attention to that shift, Pisces. It's often one of the clearest signs that healing has already begun, even if it doesn't feel dramatic yet. There's also something worth saying about the people who stay. While one relationship may be revealing cracks, many people notice something else happening at the exact same time. Certain relationships suddenly feel steadier, warmer, more real than they did before. This isn't coincidence, according to many spiritual interpretations. It's contrast. Once you experience the discomfort of dishonesty, genuine connection becomes easier to recognize. The people who show up consistently, who don't require tests or explanations, who simply remain present without complication, they may start to feel more valuable to you than ever before. Take notice of who those people are, Pisces. Not to compare them to who hurt you, but to appreciate them fully, perhaps for the first time in a while. Sometimes, one door closing simply makes it easier to see who was standing beside you the entire time, waiting patiently for you to look their way. Before we move toward the final part of this message, let's talk briefly about timing, because so many people misunderstand it. You may wonder why this truth is surfacing now, rather than months ago, or months from now. Many spiritual traditions suggest timing is never accidental. Truth tends to arrive precisely when you have the emotional resources to handle it, not sooner, when you might still be too attached to see it clearly, and not later, once too much time has already been lost. If this week feels significant, Pisces, it may be because your inner world has finally reached a place of readiness. Not perfection, just readiness. Enough clarity, enough strength, enough self-trust to face whatever needs to be faced without losing yourself in the process. That readiness didn't appear overnight. It was built through every uncomfortable feeling you didn't ignore, every quiet doubt you allowed yourself to sit with instead of dismissing. You did the inner work, even when it didn't feel like progress at the time. Now, many believe the outer world is simply catching up to match it. Before we close, let's talk about the stars for a moment, because your sign has always felt a quiet kinship with them. Stars don't announce their light. They don't perform for attention. They simply exist, steady and unwavering, long after the moments that created them have passed. Many believe you're being called to embody that same quiet steadiness right now, not proving your worth to anyone who doubted it, not demanding apologies or explanations, just existing, calmly and confidently, exactly as you are. Because here's the truth beneath every symbolic sign we've explored today. You were never the one who needed to change. Whether today's message felt deeply personal or simply gave you a new way to reflect on something you've already been feeling, remember this: your greatest strength has never been predicting the future. It has always been recognizing your own worth. Sometimes the truth doesn't arrive to hurt you. It arrives to finally set you free. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story may encourage someone else out there who needs a little hope today. Take care of yourself, Pisces, and trust what you already know.